tell you first and foremost is we made it. Okay, give yourself a big hand. Okay. We as the church have been more innovative in the last 12 months than I think we ever have before. Okay. Probably going all the way back to when the disciples ran the face of the earth in the book of Acts and they transformed the world and thousands of people came to Christ. I think that we're in that decade of time right now. That's just my personal opinion. And you may be discouraged and you may be frustrated by online church and virtual church. But let me tell you something. We got on a Discord call the other night. Anybody know what Discord is? Cool, 3 people. Awesome, okay. We got on a Discord call the other night, and we chatted it up. And let me tell you something. These guys are fired up about what's coming to the church, okay? The comment, we're going to share this today, but the comment was made that we feel like our greatest days are all ahead of us. We have peeled the skin back, Bishop, of an orange, and it's like the fruit is getting ready to be exposed. And Bishop said it last night, and Bishop spoke a powerful word last night. He called me this last week, and he's like, hey, man, I'm speaking on the next gen or releasing to the next gen. And I don't know about you, but I'm glad that we have a bishop that says, you know what, I'm going to make room for the next gen. I'm going to buy into the next gen. I'm going to believe in the next gen. Because let me tell you something, church. If we are going to reach the next gen, it's going to be through the digital age, okay? It just is. That's where they're connecting. I read just this morning as I was grabbing some last-minute thoughts, and this is going to blow you away. The average person in the world, okay, we're talking about third world countries too, consume 7.5 hours of media a day. 7.5 hours of media per day. I don't know about you, but that's a lot of media. It shows me that when we're at our job, we're consuming media. When we're sitting on the toilet at our home, we're consuming media. When we're driving, we're probably consuming some sort of media. Why? Because there's this need for us to want to be connected, for us to want to gain information and to gain knowledge. And so we're going to talk to these guys today. All of these guys, I'm the old guy in this group, all right? It makes me feel really old, all right? I'm the old guy. All these guys, I think Jake's not, but these guys are all either 30 or below, okay? And they're passionate about the digital age. And so we're going to begin to unravel this some and talk about this some, talk about what's next for the church, what we can continue to do to be innovative, what we can continue to do to reach people. How many pastors in here you think that the hardest thing that you've got going on with digital church is connection? Come on, raise your hand. Be honest with me. The hardest thing you got going on is connection. That is the hardest thing we have going on. But can I tell you something right now that there are online communities, and Will's going to talk about this in just a second. There's online groups and online communities that are formed that thousands and millions of people are connected to. Did anybody hear about 3 or 4 weeks ago something called Wall Street Bets? Anybody hear about Wall Street Bets on Reddit, okay? People lost hedge funds lost billions of dollars because some guys rallied together on something called Reddit, and they networked together, and they literally took down hedge funds, and hedge funds lost billions of dollars over about a 4-day period. And let me tell you this, these guys aren't done yet because these stocks like GameStop and AMC and Nokia and all these different weed stocks, okay, I just said weed in the house of God, I'm sorry, all right? They're all booming through the roof right now because these guys are networking and they're connecting on these platforms like Reddit and Discord and these channels that sometimes is crazy to us. I shared with these guys the other night, and I'm getting ready to open it up for a question from them, that when these stocks boomed, myself, I lost a whole bunch of money in these stocks, just an FYI, okay? I don't say that as poor, pitiful me, but I'm just telling you the truth of the matter. And that night, okay, and we might get into a little bit of politics in here too, but we'll keep it clean, all right? That night I found myself like scratching my head like what in the world just happened today? As Robinhood and other brokerage accounts began to shut down and began to cancel things, and the Reddit world and Discord was going absolutely crazy. And I found myself that night logging on to something called Twitch. Anybody ever heard of Twitch? Okay, I logged on to Twitch, and I sat there and I watched AOC talk about what was going on in the world of stocks. AOC from New York, okay? And she sat there and she talked. And in this conversation, she's connecting. You wonder how our election was stolen or taken or whatever the case might be of what your viewpoint is. It's because they've been on these channels like Reddit and Discord, and they're connecting with our younger generation where the church sometimes hasn't been because, one, we don't know about it, or one, we haven't reached out to it. And she will get on there, and there's a game called Among Us. Anybody ever heard of a game called Among Us? Okay? I'm just trying to open your eyes up. They get on this game called Among Us, and they play this game, and they chat via Discord. These students do with AOC, this politician, and she floats around ideas like $20 minimum wage, and she floats around these thoughts and these things of green energy and these ultra-progressive mindsets. And what's happening to our kids is they're getting sucked in because they're playing a game, and then the next thing you know, they're being inundated with political viewpoints and political ideas. All while we as the church, man, we're just like, man, how do I hit the Facebook Live button right now? How do I get my camera to look a little better? Because that's a wide shot. I know I'm not that wide. Am I right? And so the conversation today isn't necessarily of this is how we do live stream, because I know everybody in the house is doing live stream. But it's how do we take a step forward in presenting the gospel of Jesus Christ? Because let me tell you something, guys. As a guy that does student ministry, our students are going to get caught in the balance of it all. It's like a whirlwind that's getting ready to happen. And the gospel has came so far through the decades and through the years. And these back channels of the web and these substations of Reddit and Discord and Twitch and all these different things, and this gaming world is slowly creeping up around us, and it's going to pull these kids in. It's going to pull our world in. So if we are going to propel ourselves as the church for the next 20 years, okay, it's going to take some innovation and some creativity. And I think that we've done that over the last few years. So Kevin. I don't know what I'm thinking. Kevin did a whole bunch of research for us as we were leading up to this about the analytics of our reach. How many of you guys feel like you see on Sunday morning and you're like, man, I had 8 people online. I'm a little discouraged right now. You know what I'm talking about? Well, that message that you preach that 8 people are online with is now archived online forever. Okay? As long as you don't hit the delete button, it's there forever. I read a statistic a few weeks ago that 1/3 of Americans now work on Sundays. So on Tuesday night at 3 a.m., when that person in your church can't sleep, there's a really good opportunity for them to open up their phone and to begin to watch your live stream or to catch a snippet of the gospel of Jesus Christ. Why? Because the message is no longer contained to rows on Sunday, but the message is now with them everywhere that they go. So Kevin, give Kevin the microphone, Ethan, real quick. Kevin, begin to break down with me some of the analytics and some of the things that you and the team at Radiant Life has begun looking at as far as the numbers, so that we don't always get discouraged by the numbers of what our services have or don't have.
Everybody else, and one of the things we try to stay away from is looking at the daily statistic, because it's never, ever, ever accurate. The daily statistic of, like, say you have 8 to 10 people watching from home. That's not 8 to 10 people. That's 8 to 10 devices that are currently on your live stream. That could be a family sitting in their living room watching it on their TV, or a couple huddled around their phone. And that's just the day of. So the analytics that a lot of sites give us, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram Live, stuff like that, they vary wildly on the day of. That's not the number that we need to be watching. The number we need to be watching is, how did we do that past month? Because that's the macro level of how many people you reached in a month. So say on a Sunday they do a live stream, only 20 people watched it. Okay. At the end of the month, say take Facebook for instance, instead of saying, you had 20 people watch every week, your posts and your videos, just to take ours for instance, reach 1,700 people that entire month. and we had this much growth. And those are the numbers we need to be looking at on a macro level. And then if you're like, hey, we're trending up or we're trending down, say, oh no, we lost some viewers this month. Then you make those micro adjustments. Then you maybe start posting a little bit more, or maybe throughout the week, or something to uplift, or say, hey, whoever shares the most gets a drawing for a $25 Amazon card because everyone loves Amazon. Or something like that to just kind of like help boost the trend. We get discouraged because we look at it's not good enough today. Today's not what we need to be worried about, because that sermon or snippet is online forever until you hit the delete button. So you want to look at, how did I do this month? How many people did I reach this month? And that's kind of what we look at.
Yeah, anybody else want to share on that thought? They're just looking at me like I'm crazy. But sometimes, as pastors or leaders, we get discouraged because we're like, man, we feel like the church only evolves from 10 a.m. to noon or whatever time our services are. And with this new wave that's going, it's nonstop. Okay, it's nonstop. I look at ministries like Stephen Furtick or Michael Todd with Transformation Church, and they're dropping stuff randomly throughout the week. Another way that you can get viewership, and Ethan can kind of speak to this, is they'll take and they'll rebroadcast their service. So if your service was on Sunday at 10, do a rebroadcast on Thursday night at 7 p.m. just to catch another wave, because then what else happens is you get that notification to go off where they're able to say, hey, wow, they're at church again. Well, we're not at church again, but we're rebroadcasting. So Ethan, talk maybe about how you guys stream to multiple networks and are able to capture that and to rebroadcast that or reshare that.
Yeah, I think when you look at a tool like rebroadcasting and you're doing your live stream over again, quote unquote, it's just a great way to catch people that might be working on Sunday or might not be there. It gives a great opportunity to reach an audience that you might not be reaching. Also, it gives someone like an alert on the phone. It's like, hey, this church is live. And it's like, oh, this church is live at Thursday at 6 o'clock. And so it's just a great opportunity to reach a wider net of people. And it can be greatly utilized for churches. I think sometimes we get confined to only thinking we can stream on Sunday. We only have church on Sunday. But there's definitely platforms that we can use that can help us rebroadcast our services throughout the day. On Sunday, you can have Sunday night church from your Sunday morning church, or on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and etc. So,
all right. So real quick, when we talk about restreaming or rebroadcasting to multiple networks, some of you guys you're used to only streaming strictly to just Facebook. Okay, so you get everything set up, ready to roll, and you hit that go live button, and you're rocking and rolling just on that platform. There's avenues, and I'm going to ask Ethan and Kevin, because I know they deal with this specifically, that you can literally take that one feed and it will sub-branch off your deal onto Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, yada, 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 whatever services those are provided. So give these guys some insight about what you guys use, and maybe if there's a monthly subscription to what you use, and talking about rebroadcasting real quick.
So we use Restream, which is a great platform. We've not had any issue with it. It's been a good tool for us to, one, get our message on Facebook and YouTube simultaneously, but it also offers you to put your live service out on Twitter, Instagram, even Twitch. I know that's kind of a big concept. It's like, oh, that's just for gaming, but you could also reach a platform like that, and so that's what we use. You can also use other platforms. I know Kevin's going to talk about one, but there's another one I think that's called Caster, which is basically the same thing. Of it sends your broadcast to several different networks. So
yeah, so we use a site called Mob Crush, and it's 100% totally free. You can stream to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch. You used to do Mixer, but Mixer's no longer a thing. And you can set custom destinations and stuff like that. You can't post to social media like a go live message, but you can do titles and descriptions and things like that. And it actually takes your chat. If people chat live with you on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, whatever, it puts it into one category, like one little bar on the side, to where you can talk to everybody at one time. So if you have a verse that we want to give everybody, it's not on the screen, I could just type it out and send it to everybody, and everybody can send things to the church. But again, it's totally free. It doesn't have a lot of bells and whistles about like social media posting and stuff like that. But again, it's a great budget option if you can't spend the monthly fee or anything like that, or just want to get your toes wet.
And if you're interested in rebroadcasting to multiple avenues or networks, hit these guys up, and they'll get you some more details on that. Real quick, switching gears a little bit. Restream and
Mob Crush.
Mob Crush. Okay, Mob Crush. Why is it all like weird names? You ever notice that? Listen, I felt like an old dad the other day. Bree was like, "Hey man, I want to start gaming with these guys," and I'm like, "Okay," like not like weird people, these guys, okay? And their wives game and stuff. They're all gamers, okay? I'm the only non-gamer in this group. And so I bought my daughter a headset, and I got her all hooked up, and she's like, "Dad, this is a lot of fun." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, we just entered the dark side of the world, all right, right here, all right?" And but in having that conversation, Will, as we transition to gaming, trying to give you the scale that this thing is on, there is a dark side of it, and you're allowing so much, if I can say the word, garbage in when that stuff begins to go. I'm on a Discord channel for stocks, and my little daughter Brooklyn was down there the other day on my computer setup, and she's like reading this stuff, and I'm like, "Babe, you got to stop reading this." And she's like, "What are you talking about, Dad?" And I said, "There might be some bad words in there, okay? You just got to stop, because they're on a lot of this stuff. There's no filter with these guys, and it's raw content, raw stuff, and our world is raw and nasty sometimes. But if we, the church, are going to build the bridge to minister, it's going to take cutting through the rawness sometimes to reach them where they're at. And so we'll talk about this gaming world and streaming on things like Twitch and the streaming things that have been going on long before the church even entered the arena.
Yeah, so if you're wondering why I'm up here in sweats and a sweatshirt, you're like, "Why is this dude up here?" It's because I have spent more hours on Twitch, on gaming, on live streams than probably everyone up here combined. I'm going to tell you, I'm serious. And it fires
He's
me
used
up.
to hiding behind a headset and a computer screen somewhere in his mom's basement.
My mom approves, I think. All right. I'm going to get into some analytics a little bit, but what Twitch is, first and foremost, I'm going to say this, and it hasn't been brought up yet. How many people in here would say that their church was streaming on a regular basis before March of 2020? Raise your hand.
Eddie's like that salvation deal. Like, I don't know if I want to
Let's say less than 10.
Not.
Let's say less than 10. How many people in this church can say that their church, after March of 2020, is streaming on some platform? Facebook, Instagram. I don't think anyone's in here on Instagram, but just Facebook is streaming their services on a regular basis now after March of 2020. That right there fires me up more than anything else. I look at these numbers. Twitch right now, if you don't know what Twitch is the #1 streaming platform anywhere. It runs more numbers, it runs more people, it runs more categories than any other streaming platform, bigger than Facebook. I'm pretty positive I could say this. I think it's bigger than Facebook and YouTube combined. I could be wrong about that. I didn't fact check that. But the amount of people alone on Twitch, just from March, I'll even get into a little bit of numbers. Let's just say from March. So Twitch was already growing at that point, had millions and millions of views. Just in March, they were averaging 10 billion views in that month. Just 10 billion views. By the end of the year, by December, through COVID, through the shutdown, through quarantine, that average has gone up to 19 billion views. It has almost doubled since the pandemic has started. And we're like, "Well, why does that fire you up? I don't understand. You're talking about gaming. You're talking about all these views on Twitch." And it's because the church as a whole, I feel, has just seen the well. And what's the well? The well is people that we haven't tapped into yet, the people that haven't seen what God can do in their life. And we are right now looking at this well. We're like, what can we do with this? Do we need a camera? Do we need to stream it to other platforms? Are we only streaming to Facebook? How many people can we reach? How are we making our stream look good? And we're right now looking at this well, seeing how we can make it better. That way it can flow with water more than we've ever seen before. We are averaging right now, I'd be willing to say this right now, because I wish that we weren't probably talking about streaming last year, but we're going to talk about it. But we were averaging what? We're averaging what, 10 to 20 viewers in a session? Like, I would say that's a pretty decent average of churches in this room right now, 10 to 20 viewers. I would say by the end of the year, hands down, if the numbers keep going as they're going, I can see them double, triple. I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but just as a whole, the church is going to grow so much just on the online presence that it's going to be ridiculous. We're going to see people in our church that we have never seen before who have been in their mom's basement since the beginning. And they're like, what is church? What is God? I don't understand what this is. And they're going to be posted, like, they're going to put a comment out. I don't know what this means. I don't know what this God is. And we are looking at untapped potential that the church has. Pastor Bob was speaking the other week, and he said, God sees a need and he fills a need. God knew that we weren't tapping in to this industry. The church as a whole wasn't tapping in to streaming. There was like 5 people who rose their hands before March of 2020. And after March of 2020, everyone is streaming. It is going to get much bigger. God is going to do much bigger things. He saw a need. He filled it. The church is just going to get bigger for it. God's word is going to get out to more people, and that fires me up more than anything, because now whenever I look at my stream on Twitch and I watch the Fortnite FNCS Championship tonight that has like 200,000 people watching it, I can look at that going, man, the church is growing just like they are, and it's only a matter of time before the church and the word of God is spread to the whole country.
Awesome. Did anybody, when we were going through that 8-week period when we were all in lockdown, or 12 weeks, depending on what region of the country you're in, did anybody ever think, did you think in your mind that your church would never be the same? Like, did you think these people are never coming back into my church? Did anybody, be honest? The thought crossed my mind. It's like, man, these people are never coming back into our church. How do I reach these people? And for like 2 or 3 weeks, man, every camera, I was on B&H a few weeks ago, and I read this. Every camera, they were sold out of cameras across the globe because everybody was scouring the stuff up to try to get their live streams going. And so Will's exactly right. We are in an area that is unreached, okay? Carl Hargestrom has this unreached people group. There's unreached people that we're reaching right now with our live streams and with our broadcasts. One of the questions that have came up a lot recently, especially post-election, and we're not going political, is the thought of censorship, okay? Has the thought entered your mind of what happens if we get censored, what happens if we get shut down? Has anybody, your service has been shut down because of copyright music stuff? Raise your hand, show me. Yeah, there we go. Don't be shy. We're entering into this world of copyright. This stuff is all done based on bots and analytics, okay? There's not some person sitting at YouTube or at Facebook and it's like, okay, they're playing this song. Let's shut them down right now, okay? It's all set up based on an algorithm, based on a bot that they've got based in their servers. And so let's talk for a minute about censorship and what happens if we get censored, what happens if we get shut down. Because I don't think it's a matter of if, I think it's a matter of when. Anybody else agree with me? And so that's just my viewpoint of the world, because when we start to shut down certain agendas or certain conversations, it's only a matter of time before these private-owned companies begin to do what they want to do because they're a privately owned company. And somebody made the comment, and they're like, hey, man, let's just go build servers and let's just go do our own deal. Okay, Facebook has billions and billions and billions of dollars wrapped up in servers just to host what we do on their network or on their platform. So let's talk about censorship for a second. We got about 10 minutes left, so let's talk about censorship. And what's your all's opinion on the censorship thought? And if we do get censored or we get copyright restrictions, how do we navigate that and what do we do?
One thing you can do is you can go online and just Google, what's it called? It would be, trying to think of the terminology. You can find music that is like license free, royalty free. And so like if you're playing Hillsong or something like that, anything, Hillsong hits the charts, the secular charts too. I mean, they're huge. If you're playing Hillsong or Elevation's music on your stream, the algorithms find that music because it's popular everywhere and will say you don't have the right to broadcast this music. So one thing you can do is just Google royalty-free music. Sometimes there's sites that have really good music. You may have to pay a small subscription price for it, but I know there's free royalty. It just takes some digging, some looking. Find someone young in your church and say, hey, can you find me some royalty-free music? Throw it on a thumb drive for me. Utilize the younger people in your church. They do this stuff on a daily basis. You don't have to, feel like, oh, I can't find this, or I don't know how to do that. Do I download MP3? Do I download MP4? What format do I need? You find someone who's in that world, that you can utilize. It gives them something to do. It makes them feel proud that they can be a part of something. And that's just one way to avoid getting, because you would think, oh, that song, I'm getting shut down for something that accounts for 2 minutes of my stream maybe, and now my whole stream is derailed by it. I got people who can't come to church, for whatever reason, if someone has compromised, immune, whatever it is, now this spoils it for them. So that's one thing, that's one way to avoid it.
Anybody else want to jump in there on censorship? Kevin, while he gets the mic, the other thing is if we're streaming to multiple platforms, it kind of eliminates some of that sometimes. So go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, some platforms have different TOS, terms of service guidelines, things that you can do. Twitch is super strict right now with DMCA. If they hear something that even sounds like a Hillsong thing, nope, you're done. They'll shut the stream down, or they'll mute that part of the stream, or whatever steps they take. Something that we've been trying to do, we as churches, we have a worship team, and you have an abundance of musicians. We've been trying to write our own very basic background music to try to put in there something like a C-sharp pad with an acoustic guitar over it or something. Nothing, quality grade like, Hollywood, but something just basic that we can put in the background that we own, that they can't say, you can't play that because you don't own it. We're like, yeah, we do. We wrote it. Like, we own this. So that's one way we're trying to get around that kind of stuff. The other thing is if you record live worship, if you stream live worship, you can get the CCLI license and stuff, but some of those websites will ignore that completely. It's very finicky in how you do that, because they can say, well, YouTube was notorious for this years ago. They say, well, I have the license to use this song or this video clip, and you submit a request, and they're denied, because they just didn't want to hear it because it was all bots. The bots were just it's just a computer algorithm saying, no, you can't do that. Even though you have permission, no, you can't do that. So there's different avenues you want to explore, kind of test the waters. They're not really first strike ban forever. They're like, well, we'll mute this part of the service, but just try to experiment with what you can use, what you can't use, and royalty-free stuff. Royalty-free stuff, license-free stuff is great, but now we're starting to see bots take that and say they're making false claims, saying that the bots own this, and they don't. So there's, again, test the water, see what's out there, and if you can or you need help, like you said, there's people in your church you can ask, and make them feel like they're involved in this whole process, and make your own stuff. We're all creative.
Yeah, I think that's what I love probably most about the pandemic is we empowered people that maybe were sitting on the sidelines previously. And we've said, hey, okay, listen, here's your lane. Kevin, here's your lane, okay? Kevin's been at Radiant Life for as long as I can remember, Pastor Gray. I mean, as long as I can remember, okay? And Kevin's got an opportunity to come to the platform and use his gifts and talents, and we were discussing this over dinner last night, and Kevin, I'm proud of you. You've ran with it, and you serve well, and that's what it's all about. Listen to me. It's finding somebody that you can trust and being like, hey, man, I don't know how to do this right now. But can we run this race together so that we can reach the multitude of people, so that we can take the message farther than what we've ever taken it before? I know you're not going to let me down. I know you're not going to betray me. I know you're not going to tell me we need to spend $24,000 with equipment when we can do it for like $400, all right? We can trust each other. And so real quick, as we begin to wind down, go through here, and Jake hasn't said anything. He's like won't talk at all, all right, or something. I don't know. Go through here because I know you guys all do different stuff to stream with. Okay, you all use different technology, different stuff. Go through here real quick and do it in 30 seconds and tell me what you use to stream. Like, use a camera, computer, you use iPads, you use this or you use that technology.
Yeah, so we use Windows. That's our platform. We use a free stream software called OBS, Open Broadcast Software. We have one camera that follows this preacher, and then we have a couple of offset cameras. We have a platform camera operator. Honestly, couldn't do it without the team because they're vitally important. You need a team that you can trust that's going to show up, that's going to be there, that's going to operate stuff. That's basically what we use. We also use a little switchboard that plugs all the cameras in, and you can hit buttons, and it switches between scenes and fades in, fades out, all this cool stuff. That's what we use.
Bro, you just streamed your mom's basement.
I was going to say.
Well, let me tell you something. Will recently relocated to Jeff City, and he lives on a side of town that has horrible internet. And he's been complaining for 6 months that they've got 40 down of internet.
It's horrible.
And some of you guys are probably starting to realize what those ups and down numbers mean more than ever before. And so Will streams, his wife streams, and his roommate streams also, and they crash the internet every single time, all right? So,
I
sorry.
can't download anything without everyone having bad internet. It's bad.
He had a cable. I got to tell you this story. True story. He had a cable ran from the basement where the modem was all the way up through his house. And his roommate got really mad and bought these things and connected it. And so Will paid all kinds of extra money to have the service guy come in and rerun all the wires so that he could have hardwired internet, all right?
It's worth it.
It's worth it.
So I'll be honest. I'm just going to go into something a little bit different because Ethan knows about all of our stream stuff way more than I ever will. I'll tell you for sure. One thing that I'll say is if you are out there and you're confused about some of the things that we're talking about and you're like, man, I really don't know about this stream stuff. I mean, COVID's going to be over probably in the next year, and then we're going to get back to normal, and then streaming will kind of die down. If there's one thing I want you to take away from us being up here, one thing, if you're super confused, you want to look at resources, there's resources on the internet you can look at, but if there's one thing to take away is that streaming your church services is not going away. Streaming in general is only just begun. I'll say it once, I'll say it a million times. We have only just started to work in what God has already done in our streams. It's only going to get bigger from here.
That was a good word right there.
Ethan's going to take Will up an offering. We'll close in prayer. Bow your heads.
For us, we originally started off with a DSLR camera, which is a traditional camera, and then in August we made an investment. Hey, let's actually put some money into this because this is a long-term investment that we're gonna see for years to come. And so, what we use at Life Rock Church is we use two Blackmagic cinema cameras, 4K. We do not stream in 4K. The most you'll ever stream is 1080. But still great value for its price. We hook those cameras up into a switcher / encoder, which for us we use an ATEM Mini Pro, which, like Kevin says, helps you switch from camera to camera and gives you a lot of flexibility there. Honestly, it's probably the best. I don't even care about the cameras. That's probably the best thing that we have is that switcher and encoder because it just saves a lot of headache. And we use Mac. We use a Mac Mini to help with our stream, and we also use two computer monitors too. So it's a pretty simple setup, but it really goes a long way.
All right, Jake, spit it out.
I've been waiting this entire time to speak, and I finally got my opportunity. I'm so excited.
It's time to go. Let's wrap up.
So yeah, we use 3 iPads, one main iPad, and then 2 camera iPads. We use a system called Switcher Studio, and so we run the soundboard into a box, and then that box runs into the iPad, and then you can upload any video you want onto the main iPad. You can switch it and switch the cameras and bring up, different fonts on the thing and so on and so forth. So
Stay there real
yeah.
quick. You can also do this deal on your phone. Okay, it's called Switcher. I went to a sporting event right as the pandemic was getting ready to happen, and I seen these guys do. It was actually at Crystal City. They were streaming district basketball games, and they take these phones and they take these iPads and they put them all on one network, and it uses the camera on your phone to stream with, and then it controls it based on one centralized iPad or one phone, and you can go through and pick your shot or whatever. So if you're looking for something that, hey, I already own this stuff, look into Switcher, and Jake can get you some more information on that deal for
absolutely.
sure.
Yep. That's it.
Sweet. Zach.
We use something called Live Wedge. It's this little unit. It is also a camera switcher and an encoder. So we send 4 cameras into this, and so we can pick our shot. It'll also connect you right to your streaming platform. You just open it up on a web page on a computer. And then our audio right now, and we're looking at overhauling this, is just we're essentially using like, a monitor you would have on stage. They have their own mixes. We're just kind of using a monitor mix right now to mix our live stream. We don't have a separate like soundboard or anything mixing our live stream, and it's just going directly into that Live Wedge box, and then that's how we're getting our audio. But, and I'm sure everyone here probably at this point is everyone just going direct from like a soundboard or whatever, just using one microphone for your live stream audio? Is anyone using any sort of digital workstation to tweak your audio or anything like that? So there's a resource. If you go to productiononline.com, Luke Hendrickson, he is who created and curated Bethel Music's live stream, Bethel Music Church's, entire setup for their audio. And he's made it pretty affordable. I mean, I understand we're all working on a budget. It's something we're looking at moving to right now. We're in the transition of it. All in told, you're going to look at an investment of a couple $1,000s. But the value, the audio quality you're going to see from that is more than worth it. You need a couple things. You'll need a computer to run either Pro Tools or Logic or some sort of system. But what that does is he provides you a template you can buy. It'll work on any of those platforms. And it's going to give you things like pitch correction for your vocalists. Has everyone noticed that vocals, when they're, it's a direct feed to live streaming, your vocalists can sometimes, you're like, they sound really good in my sanctuary, in my room. They sound great. I don't notice any pitch problems at all. And then you pull up a stream, or even our own singers will pull up a stream and be like, is that what I sound like? Is this what I sound like, you guys? Am I this bad? And it's no. There's natural acoustics in a room that are way more forgiving than a direct line feed. It's always going to be harsher. It's super compressed. It's just not what that was really meant for. So this autocorrection, this tuner, it's not auto-tune. It's not going to make you sound like T-Pain or like a SoundCloud rapper or anything like that. It's just a gentle nudge. It just helps your pitch a little bit. It'll sound natural. No one will ever know that you're running it, but it'll really help the quality of your worship team.
Sweet.
And stuff like that.
Hey, anything that could help me out, I could probably start singing if we did that. All right? No, I'm just kidding. Hey, but man, we just hope that we shared some insight. Let's pray, and we'll end this thing. And Bishop, I see Bishop waving.
Okay, so let me just, and I don't feel I have to because these guys are smart, okay? But I feel like I want to, okay? So as they begin to speak, they started sharing a bunch of words that I had no idea what they were saying. Anybody else feel that way? Come on. I wasn't the only dumb one in the building, right? And that's fine. They are not saying that going out into your street and witnessing to somebody is dead, right? They are not saying that a pastor standing in the pulpit preaching the word is dead and gone, right? What they are saying, and they are taking this literally from the scripture, and I was thinking about that, and I was listening to them, and I love modern things. I love growing, and God just kind of dropped something in my spirit, and this is what I wanted to say. The Great Commission tells us that we are to go into all the world and preach the gospel. Let me bridge this between them and you. Do you go into their world? And do you preach the gospel? They are telling you today how to go into their world and preach the gospel. They are living the Great Commission for their generation. Their world lives online. And if you reach them online, then you're going to be able to reach them in the street, and you're going to be able to reach them in the church. Am I correct? That's what they're saying. They're not saying how we do things are obsolete. No. They're saying you can do it this way, you can do it this way, and you can do it this way. And so they're trying to give you food for thought. So listen to it. You may not understand it all. I don't understand it all. If my sons were here, they would tap me on the shoulder and say, "Hey, old man, do you understand that?" And I'd say, "Come here, kid, let me punch you in the throat."
Real quick, John.
Go.
The whole thing that this is trying to do is get you to think, what's the world going to be in 20 years? The internet was invented in 1983, okay? We've came a long way since 1983. What's the next 40 years going to look like? In the next 20 years, you're going to still be standing in your pulpit. What can the tech generation bring to take your ministry to another level? And I think that's the conversation, and that's the heartbeat. And we're never going to replace, let me tell you something, and Bishop says this all the time, we're never going to replace the in-person connection of church, ever. I don't think that we will, because it's caring, it's compassionate, it's loving, it's all these things. But the online world is a bridge that we can get to get them people either into our church or to conversate with us on the online platforms.
And let me, as much as you like to send your pastors to a conference and send your worship leaders to a conference, you should really look for a tech conference to send your tech people to. True? I mean, you have online platform and you research a lot of stuff, but being in the building, listening to people talking, yeah, there's a lot of platform that you can watch different things on how to do things. But basically, as much as you want to educate your associate pastors and your missions pastors and your worship pastor, and you want them to be the best that they can be, invest in these young people. I say that because I'm 44. Invest in these young people to take the message like Jesus said, so you can go unto all the world, because right now you're not going into all the world because the world has changed. And so go into their world. I hope I bridged that well enough, all right? Give these guys a good hand clap. Come on. If you have any questions, grab them, ask them, okay? They will spend time with you. They will give you an email address or some sort where you can connect with them, and they'll answer questions, and they will